Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larziliere. Today's guest is Tony Mcklem from Hollywood Decks. How you doing, Tony?
Good, my man. Pleasure. I'm glad we finally were able to link up, man. And
Absolutely.
We've been playing tag for the last couple of weeks, brother, but definitely anxious to talk with you.
I'm excited to talk to you too, man. Tell everybody about Hollywood Decks and how did you get your start?
Man, I'm going to try to give it to you in a nutshell. Hollywood Decks is a outdoor living company based here out of Northeast Florida. We service primarily Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. So we have approximately a 2-hour radius from where we're based out of Fernandina Beach that we service. We are originally from Los Angeles, California. We were building decks out there and in the outdoor space out there. And when we moved out here, we wanted to start from scratch. There's a company that is still, in fact, active in Los Angeles building that we were with, and we just wanted to start fresh. And we were looking for a name, and my wife suggested, hey, we have, in fact, built in Hollywood, California. That's where we last left. We also have projects in Hollywood, Florida that we've also built down south. And we're originally from Hollywood. So she's like, Hollywood is you. She was like, that's a good name. That's a good catchy phrase. We looked it up. I was like, there's no way Hollywood Decks hasn't been taken.
Yeah.
And it was golden, man. Website's available, Instagram's available, email's available. So we ended up jumping on Hollywood Decks, brother. And so, yeah, it sticks, brother. We're blessed and fortunate to have great clients, a great team, absolutely great products and reps that we work with, brother. So Hollywood Decks has now been running for 4 years here in Northeast Florida. And we're going strong, man. We're definitely excited for what 2024 has in store for us.
How are you getting your clients? Like what's been the biggest sort of revenue, not revenue, marketing channel for you?
Yeah, so we were chatting about that today with another colleague. If I tell you we've spent on digital marketing and advertising a year, these last few years, I'd probably be exaggerating. All the clients we've gotten thus far have been primarily word of mouth and recommendation.
Wow.
And it just seems like the more we get comfortable in certain neighborhoods and the more we provide that good service and quality building, the more we get calls from that area. So we're glad that we are not needing to use I'll say it, Yelp and all these other marketing agencies.
Home Advisor or whatever.
Yeah, we don't do none of that. Yeah, it would be a disservice for us to pay for that and then take leads and then just turn them down.
Yeah.
So it's been fun, man.
How are you? And it seems like you're pretty active in your field and community. How did that come about? Like you're just like out there, right? Like the nonprofit stuff, the like you're an ambassador to things. Like how'd that come about? How'd you become like an influencer in your state?
No, influencer. Not at all, man. Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you asked that. So I've said it at a personal level, brother. I've never done social media. I don't have a personal account, nor have I ever been a fan of it. It's difficult enough trying to manage a relationship with my wife and just daily life without having to add social media to it. So at a personal level, I was just never a fan of it. Yeah. But I was told that nowadays, as a business owner and in business, that's it, right? Social media is how you're going to be able to widen your net with business. And you want to network and you want to share with others who you are and what you're about. So needless to say, we opened up all our social media for Hollywood Decks. And the first year, we were just sharing our work, right? Here's a before picture. Here's an after picture. A couple of, all right, here's in between and what we did. And that's all we did for the first year. And so a real good gal on my team said, hey, you need to start showing face, right? Mm-hmm. People want to know who's behind the company and explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah. So year 2 of Hollywood Decks, I said, you know what? All right, let's try it. I don't know what I'm doing on there. And to the date, I don't know what I'm doing on there, but we're just sharing, man. We're just sharing who we are and our purpose and our mission and our goals and why we do things the way we do. And we're fortunate to have such good feedback, such good support from some of these folks in the social media world. And that's all we're doing, man. We're just going on there and trying to be consistent on sharing what our experience is and some of our bloopers and some of our issues. But that's allowed us to be able to connect with different companies, different brands that also share the same mission, the same goal. Right?
Sure.
And I always say, brother, we're in the people business, right? Past the company, past the brands, past the name, past the money. We're in the people business, right? So if there's good people and you can connect with those good people, then you're golden, man. And a lot of these companies that we've been able to work with and partner with have real good people, man. Such good folks that you're able to just pick up the phone and call and say, here's what's going on. And they answer, brother, and they answer. So we appreciate them.
That's cool. Yeah, well, I know both of I know True Work and Diamondback. I know the owners personally, so they're really good. They're good people.
Absolutely, both good gentlemen.
Yeah. Hey, one question is so you did this work in California. Was it the exact same business or was it slightly different?
So let's see. I'll give it to you in a nutshell again, brother. So my background out of college and in school was finance and administration. So I went to college, and in the state of California, I was a fully licensed financial advisor.
Okay.
So my last business in the state of California was in fact a wealth management office. We used to do investments, life insurance, all that wonderful financial stuff. And I got tired of that world, man. I got tired of the office world. And it just so happens that
Did you work in Century City? Did you work in Century City?
I worked in downtown, man. I worked in the Wells Fargo building.
You worked in downtown.
On Worcester.
Okay.
Yeah, those high-rise buildings, man. And it's funny because growing up in LA, I was like, man, stinking downtown. I remember we used to drive in there and all the one-way streets and all the the homeless and the population and the cars.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was like, dang, downtown LA is ridiculous. And somehow, some way, I ended up working in that area.
Yeah.
So I was having to drive into downtown every single day. But past that, I used to volunteer in the evenings and weekends. So I would always go and volunteer, Habitat for Humanities and things of that sort, and just help out. I just wanted to help out. A good buddy of mine was the foreman and the supervisor. And I was like, hey, man, I'll help out. So I learned framing, I learned painting, I learned drywall, I learned concrete, a little bit of everything, just volunteering. And I volunteered, man, for over 10 years without earning a single cent. Just evenings and weekends, I would go and volunteer.
Wow.
And lo and behold, one of these days I just got, so all those 10 years, I would, I got a pickup and I got some tools and I got some experience and, my little hard hat and I got a safety vest, right, and my boots. And so throughout those 10 years of just volunteering, I got a lot of experience, right, a lot of exposure, so much so that towards the end of those years, I was supervising, right, I was just taking lead on some of these framing projects, and I narrowed down
This was all still volunteering?
All volunteer, man, just for kicks. So I narrowed down my focus on framing. I loved framing. I loved just the wood, being able to cut and build and being the first ones on site, putting the skeleton up. And so towards the end of that, I was able to read blueprints, right, take lead on some of these projects. And then what ended up happening was I got tired of the office, right? And I got tired of that business that I had. I sold the book. I went to the house and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't want to be...
So you sold your book of business. Like you got out, you burnt your boats.
Yeah. Cleared up my downtown office. It was a corner glass office. Yeah. Right on Worcester at the Wells Fargo building. And I went home, man. And I told my wife, I don't know what I want to do. Right. I sat in a real dark place, man, for 3 weeks. I had never felt like that before in my life.
You probably felt like, what's your purpose?
Yeah, I invested. I mean, my career, right? My entire career was finances, was numbers, was office, was desk.
It's how you identified yourself, right? It's what everybody knew you
was. Yeah, suits, right? I was the guy. That was me, right?
Yeah.
And I was tired of it. I had invested so much time and money and effort into that, and I was tired of it. And so I went home and I don't know what to do, right? But needless to say, bills don't stop, right? All these expenses keep accruing, man. They never stop. They don't care how you feel. They don't care if you're in a funk. You got to keep paying bills. So I was sitting at home. One of these days, and I made lunch for me and my boys. We were sitting for lunch with my sons, And I asked my younger son, I said, hey, can you say prayer, right? Can you bless this food? And man, he gave me one of those home run prayers where it just hit deep. I mean, literally just broke me as we're sitting at the table. And I was bawling, man. I mean, I was just in a bad mood, you know, and he just said all the words he needed to say, right? And he was like, just help, you know, dad find a job and be happy and like what he wants to do.
Oh man.
And so we say amen,
That's
man.
like
I run to the
real talk,
bathroom.
man. That's real talk.
Oh,
That's
oh yeah, man.
oh.
Oh yeah, man. He nailed it, man. My son nailed it. So I leave him at the table. I run to the bathroom. I just bawl my eyes. I wash my face. And I was like, all right, man, I got to do something. I got to do something. I'm not going to sit here. You know, it's already been 3 weeks. I got to make some money. And so I told my wife, I said, look, I've never done it secularly, but I got a truck out there. I got some tools. I'm pretty sure I can find a job in construction, right? I got some experience. I'm about to do this. So I started calling. Looking for ads, calling all sorts of companies saying, hey, you know, I got tools, I got experience, I got a truck, I want to work. And of course, I called so many people and so many people called me back. They're like, show up, show up, show up, show up, show up. So I went to go build custom homes. The first job, leaving that, somebody called me in El Segundo by LAX.
Yeah.
Drove out there. We were building custom homes out by LAX area. Beautiful homes, man. Real good company, real good team. Owner, not so much. But I was comfortable, man. I showed up with my saws, showed up with my tools. It was a whole nother ballgame, brother, because sitting behind a desk to actual doing labor an entire day was different. But I enjoyed it. I like it. The crew was good. Just, management wasn't so good. You know, he was one of those that it's paid in. He would be like, well, let me see how you did to know whether or not I'm going to give you a check. I go, it's not going to work, bro. That ain't going to work. I've been here. You need to give me that check.
Yeah.
So needless to say, one of the other folks that had called me was a foundation company, concrete work.
Okay.
And so I ended up building custom homes for a few months. And then I ended up going with that foundation company. And back in that day, there was a law that passed in California that said if your building was older than certain years, you had to retrofit your building because of the seismic activity in California. So this foundation company was busy. Real good cats. It was a pair of twins that were the owners, and there was work. So I said, you know what? I've never, again, specifically done concrete work, nor rebar and all that stuff, but I'm down. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So went from building custom homes to just doing foundation work, just concrete, just rebar, and concrete work. Man, buddy, hats off to those folks that do concrete work on a daily basis.
That's no joke, right?
No joke, brother.
Joke.
That is
no joke.
It is nonstop, no joke, no light. I mean, yeah, bro, that's got to be one of the tougher industries.
And once the concrete pours, you got to work. Like, it's not like
that's what I mean, man. It's nonstop, brother. You just they're like, my brother-in-law has been doing concrete work for dang near 20 years, but he's smooth with it already, right? At this point, he knows that. But man, that was a beatdown, brother. So we used to have to break down and crack and jackhammer, get it out, rebar, pour it back in. Did that for about a year or so, and then it was just tough.
Wait, hold up. Let me ask you something. So you just changed your life because you weren't happy doing your career, right? And then you quit. You had 3 weeks. Like, you had a crisis of consciousness. Like, you had a moment, and then you just said, you're like, okay, I'm going with this. You work building homes. I'm like, okay, good. And then you're doing this, and then you did the concrete thing for a year. What is life like? What is home life? How are what's your like, you know, what's your mindset and what's your mind state like during this time? Like you literally changed your life. Like, what was that? What was life like once you made that decision and you committed to it?
Yeah, that's a good question, brother. So I was happy, man. I liked being outdoors. I liked not being in an office, not sitting behind a desk. And as beat down as I was, bro, I was literally coming home, and Ben Gay was my best friend. Icy Hot, man, was everywhere. I would come home. I got in the habit of ice baths. I got in the habit of taking a little better care of myself, right? Physically, I started getting a little more active, running in the mornings. It was a complete shift. But more than anything, brother, you know, if you know, or for those that know in the finance world, and work doesn't stop. Right? So I was working, brother. 40 hours was shy. We were doing 50 hours, 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks, right? Even if I was either staying home working or at the office working late, it was just super time consuming. So at bare minimum, although I was physically tired coming home from working construction and doing labor, mentally, brother, I was there for my family, right? Mentally, it allowed me to be there with my
Yeah.
kids and with my wife. And, my body was tore up. But it was the opposite when I was in the financial world, right? My mind was just always constantly, brother, in the books and the numbers, right? And although I wasn't necessarily physically tired or beat up, my mind was just not there.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it
That's
flipped it,
that
brother.
office work is mentally draining. It's like,
Exactly.
and it takes a lot out of your body too, you
And
know?
so it flipped it, brother. It flipped it. Now I went to being able to be a little more attentive, a little more present, right? Enjoy my wife and kids a little more
Yeah.
mentally, and just take some ibuprofen, brother, and let's get to work. Let's chase these kids and let's play around a little bit. Yeah, it was absolutely a complete change. And I liked it, man. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Past that first year or two, I was like, all right, all the knowledge I've been gaining during all these 10 years of volunteering and not earning a single cent are paying off. Now all those skills that I've acquired are in fact paying off. And lo and behold, brother, I am now in the construction industry based off those 10 years of being volunteered
Let's
and not earning a
go.
single cent. You know what I mean?
Let's go. Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
nothing better, brother, than that school, right? Than that experience of learning hands-on.
At this point, you were doing it for free for 10 years, having
Yeah,
fun, and it was probably a distraction from your day job because you're like, I'm using a different part of my brain, I'm learning
absolutely, man.
skills, I'm outside, I'm not behind a desk. And so now
I
that
was
you're
excited,
doing,
man. I was
now that you
so
got the
excited,
skills and you got your own
when I knew there
company
was
and
a
you're getting paid for it,
yeah,
it's even, you're probably like, I'm in heaven.
absolutely,
I
brother.
love what I do every day.
Yeah, I do, man. I absolutely do, man. There's no reason why I would change what I'm doing now. I don't miss the office. I know if I had to, right? It's a safety net. So if I absolutely had to suit up and get into an office and get behind a desk, no doubt about it, brother, I can go back and do that in two heartbeats. But I don't miss it, man.
Is that what prompted the move to Florida?
So yeah, we were also due for a change. My wife and I had that discussion. We were living in Burbank, California at that time. Real nice neighborhood, real nice town. We had our kids and they were going to school there. But we were just due for a change, man.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I were both born and raised in Los Angeles, and we wanted different for our kids, right? We wanted to be able to, you know, give our kids what we didn't have, the same way our parents, right, sacrificed and
Yeah.
left their home to give us what they didn't have. So I feel like that's our responsibility as parents, right? Carry that torch and be able to improve the life of your kids.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it for a while, man. We're like, what do we do? Are we really going to stay here? It's not affordable. We looked into purchasing back in Los Angeles, and this
You
was
can't afford it.
7, 8 years ago. It just wasn't feasible, man.
You had to have, well, Los
Um,
Angeles is one of those places that like you gotta have you gotta have a big windfall, or you would have to
absolutely.
have somebody pass it down for like 30, 40 years ago to get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
house.
Now, mind you, right? I just mentioned so my background, some of these jobs, right? When I was working in offices, and I'll tell you, right? So not only did I have my own businesses, but I also worked for some bigger financial industry
Mm-hmm.
giants, for some financial institutions, and I also worked for school districts. So I was making okay money.
Yeah.
But even then, I was like, "There's just no way,
For
man! Like you're
sure.
over here buying a fixer upper in LA for 700, and you can't even move into it because you got to fix it up because it's missing walls and windows." So when we sat down, my wife, we're like, "Where are we going?
Yeah.
What are we doing?" And we literally put everything on the map. We're like Utah, Canada, Alaska, Mexico, Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. Like we put everything on the map. But I have family down here in Florida. I have family in South Florida and North
Yeah.
Florida. And so we had come fairly often to visit our family here in Florida. And we liked it. We're like, Florida's, it's nice, it's calm, it's affordable.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a while. And one of my sisters here in the area was pregnant at the time. And I was like, hey, what better to have the kids grow up together, right? And we had our kids and she was going to have her baby. So we said, let's do it. Let's move to that area. Let's have the kids, the nephews and nieces grow up together and try it out. So at that point, again, there's never a perfect time, brother. You're like, all right, let's do it. Ah, something came up. All right, let's do it now. Ah, something came up. And so sometimes folks are always waiting for a perfect time. It don't exist, brother. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
If you're going to pull the trigger and go with it. You can never wait for the perfect time for something. So we finally made the decision, and that time we stuck with it, and we're like, that's it. Wrap up, pack it up. Whatever fits in the truck, we're taking, and whatever doesn't is gone, staying behind. And at that point, I was already doing outdoor living and deck building in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, yeah. So I was with that company almost 2 years doing outdoor living, and then when we split ways, we just shook hands, wish you the best. We'll see you on the flip side. And we drove, man. We drove, packed our little stuff, packed our kids, and drove cross country and came over here to Northeast Florida.
That's incredible, man. What a great story. I'm so glad that I dived a little bit deeper and you didn't just gloss over that. Like,
yeah, brother. It's life's been amazing, brother. Ups and downs, and there's still a lot of things to come, brother. But take it for what it is, and you grow with it, brother. You got to be able to adapt and change as it goes.
So tell me, you decided that you were going to start your own business when you got to this new city, and just walk me through the first 5 things you did in order to get things going.
So I had moving from Los Angeles, there was one of those friend of a friend that was looking for a backyard renovation. So by the time I moved out here, I actually had one project booked. And so that was a huge win already, right? Because we had our little pot of savings. And when we came out here, right, we obviously had to get couches and beds and just set up from scratch. And I took, I think, like 3 weeks to be able to get here, settle, get ourselves comfortable. And then I started working. Mm-hmm. And so that project was a significant project. We appreciate, the opportunity. And then once we got that, we just started a little marketing. We did set up a little bit of marketing, but I knew, learning from Los Angeles, that it was about who you know.
Yeah.
And it is always about who you know, brother. If there's one thing I learned in the financial industry and in the construction industry and just in general, brother, it is always about who you know, period.
Yeah.
So we wanted to establish ourselves with those relationships. Who were the dealers, who were the suppliers, who were the reps, who were the providers. And so we started looking for those connections out here in this area. We wanted to set ourselves up with those key people. It was tough, brother. At the beginning, this market is very, very just, I guess, undeveloped, brother. There's a lot of people in this construction area here that are kind of a few bounds and leaps behind what the beast of Los Angeles is. And so I ended up actually calling some of my reps and some of my people back in the LA area. And I was like, brother, I need you to help me out, right? Tell me who I need to call, like tap into your resources to tell me who I need to connect with out here. And I did, man. I called Jeff. Jeff was one of our phenomenal reps out there in the LA area. And he's out here on the East Coast now to say, who do I need to know? And so we did that. We connected with a couple of the people out here in this area. Let them know who we are, what we're about,
what kind of people,
what our goal was. So our supplier, that was one of our big people, right? So our supplier of the material that we use, huge support, man. They were absolutely, our number ones from the jump, man. They were real good people, and not only connecting us with our supplies and what we needed, but clientele, man. So they were also getting a lot of calls of clients saying, hey, here's what I need.
Yeah.
And they were kind of that link to say,
but there weren't enough people to do it. Are you
going to do this yourself? Yeah. Right. Are you going to do this yourself, or do you need somebody? Oh, well, let me recommend somebody.
Got you.
And they did that for us, man. They really took care of us that first year that we were here. Our rep, man, our rep was phenomenal, man. So, they had an account manager at that yard, and our account manager was absolutely a stunning guy, man. This guy was, always willing and ready to come through for us. Anything that we needed, he would drive out to the project and meet us and connect with us. So we appreciate people like that. And that's where we started our reps. So the different companies and different products have their representatives in the area, right? So if you're looking for a certain product, there's a representative that can connect you and help you with it. And so we looked for those reps. There's literally like 10 different products that we use as deck builders. Mm-hmm. And so we can list the names and we can find a product representative for that brand. And so that's what we did, man. Just connect with some of those people.
So a lot of networking. And then you had this big project. And then was it just like word of mouth referral just from there?
So for the most part, from here on out, like I said, we've done minimal. I mean, even two of digital marketing a year is a lot.
Yeah.
Most of the projects that we've gotten, we're fortunate that have been word of mouth. And so we've got certain little neighborhoods, these little gated communities
Yeah.
that we've done a project and they tell their neighbors and then they tell their neighbors.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of communities here in the area that it just seems we're kind of their go-to deck builder.
Amazing.
And so much so that they have their association, right? And we've kind of gotten comfortable and we've rubbed elbows and, you know, we've taken a couple of trays of cookies and muffins to the association and now they also recommend us and recognize us. So that's been a tremendous, tremendous help.
That's incredible. And so at what point did you realize like, yo, I can actually do this. Like I can build something real. And then you started like making the right investments in growing the business. Like what was it? I mean, was it a piece of equipment? Was it the first employee? Was it the first big, check? What was it?
So year one, year one was a struggle. We had one gentleman with us here that we found locally that we're like, all right, he's going to give us a hand. He's going to help us out. So it was a team of two. And then towards the end of year one, we booked a real good job and they took a shot on us. It was actually a commercial job.
Yeah.
So by the end of our year one here, they gave us a real good shot. And I said, you know what? I think this is going to stick. And that's when I reached out to one of the foremans and one of the folks I used to work back in Los Angeles with. And I said, hey, buddy, I need you here.
Yeah.
Right? This is going to get serious. It's going to get real. I need you to come out here and give me a hand. And he's an LA guy. He's also born and raised and he loves LA. But I said, give me 1 year. And if you like it, great. If you don't, then you can move on back.
Yeah.
So he moved out here. We relocated him, paid his expenses, covered him to come over. He gave me that 1 year and then he said, yeah, it ain't for me.
Yeah.
So he moved back to Los Angeles. But during that 1 year with him, yeah, we absolutely recognized
you grew
the need. Yeah, we recognized the need for this high quality, build out here and the lack of competition. And so much so that we weren't even touching. And I discovered that early on, we don't, after the first year, we don't bid those, pressure treated decks, right? Or your smaller little porch decks. We are in fact a high end, right, quality, a lot more elaborate project builder. And we started differentiating ourselves as such and setting ourselves apart from the others in the area. There's tons of dock builders, brother. Tons of them. You can look them up. As soon as you type in, you'll get dozens and dozens of lists and names of dock builders. There is not a lot of high-end deck builders here in the area. So that also helped too. We're a niche, right? We're looking for a specific customer, but there are in fact those customers here.
How do you spend your days these days?
Man, it is interesting. We were just chatting about that earlier today too. I love to be on project sites, man. It's always fun seeing the crew and the development of the materials and of the build and the changes that the clients bring along. So I like to be on site, but we are also fortunate to be able to partner with some of these brands and companies in creating content, man. So we also have some time allotted to be able to build some content for some of these wonderful companies that we're working with. Our goal with the content is to not only entertain, right, because that always keeps interest, but to educate, man. I think there's a lot of fear and a lot of hesitation simply because we don't know.
Yeah.
So from what we've already been through and what we've already learned, we want to be able to pass that along to others to try to kind of lessen that hurdle. And we want to educate folks, man, with anything and everything we got, anything we've learned. We want to be able to share that expertise with others, whether they're other builders or just homeowners or DIYers. There's always something we can share and there's always something we can learn.
Yeah.
So we're trying to now tap into that side of this industry, right? The construction industry has many avenues. Now that we have the installation and the build part of it, we are now trying to get into the content education part of it and see how that goes.
It's really interesting. I truly believe that the education is...
You froze on me, brother. Repeat that again.
Yeah, no, I was going to say is I find that education and content, like having enough content out there about your products and services really, really breaks down the barrier between all of those back and forth questions with your ideal customer. Can actually put you in a position of authority, right? So like one of the things that I was telling you before we hopped on the call was like, oh, it seems like you're pretty active as a visible person online. And this is stuff that I always tell my clients to like, yeah, you got to be the face, right? Like you got to be the face of your
Yeah.
business. The days of hiding behind a brand and a logo are no longer, because what will end up happening is that somebody like Tony will be the face and out and educate all of the consumers in the market, and Tony's going to eat your lunch.
Yeah. 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 The way I say it is, look, there's money out there, right? And so what I tell
Yeah,
other builders is that there's money out there,
yeah.
right? You can either sit back and let somebody else go on and get it and figure it out and get out of their comfort zone and chase it,
Hmm.
or you can go on and do it yourself,
Yeah,
right? But there is definitely a lot of potential and growth and opportunities out there, brother. You got to go out and get them. And so for us, and then I'll tap into another background of mine. Well, I kind of mentioned it. But so past the financial world and me working in banks and all that stuff, I worked for school districts. In a school district, I worked for both LAUSD and Burbank Unified School
yeah.
District. And LAUSD is the second largest, right behind New
New York.
York.
Yeah,
New
yeah,
York's the
yeah.
biggest beast in the town. So I'm huge, man. I'm big on education. Absolutely love it. I know there's been a huge need of not the Common Core type of education, but just there's been so much of a gap that's been missing between the kids and education and real life versus the books. So there's got to be some kind of something's got to come back and ground some of these kids, because the fact of the matter is, some of the basic classes like woodwork, like graphic
Yeah.
communications, just some basic life
Home ec.
skills, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kitchen or cooking, home ec, they're not available
No,
anymore,
no,
right? A lot of
no.
these school districts cut them, right? The arts have been cut, and we need them, right? These kids are growing up, on YouTube, unfortunately, right? And they're losing these basic skills that they're going to need in
Yeah.
life. And so how do we close that,
Hmm.
right? What do we
Yeah.
do? And so that's what I mean by offering, just education, by doing some kind of content to be able to share with the world, to say, hey, look, here's a drill, right? Hey, here's concrete. Here's why we build how we build. And yeah, as you said, for the client, we tell them, we love to brag how we build, right? We don't cover up anything. We don't hide anything. If you got a builder out here that's trying to work in the dark and not show you what they're doing, then you got a problem,
Yeah.
right? But for us, we will brag about a hole. We just dug a footing and we're like, hey, look, we want to show you what a 3x3x4, hole looks like. This is fascinating to see a footing this big, right? So things like that, man, we absolutely love to brag about everything we do and how we do it. And that's why, we kind of charge what we charge,
Yeah.
right? Because every little detail is methodical. Every little detail has a reason and a purpose. Every product, every screw, every nail that goes into your project is there for a reason, right? We're not just a fly-by-night company that's going to come and slap something together and then leave, and you can't call nobody. We warranty our projects. We back up all our projects as the reps, right? As I mentioned, the reps that we have and the connections we made with, we trust them, they trust us, we trust the products, and hence the client knows that, they're going to get something that's long lasting and not just something that they're going to pay for, a few cents cheaply because they want to save, and then they got nobody else to show face for it.
So what is the main, what's the bread and butter? Is it just decks, or are you doing like hardscape, landscape, like the whole front to back?
That's a good question, brother. So we like to say our decks are kind of our foot in the door.
Yeah.
So if we get a call for a screen enclosure, are we a screen enclosure company? No. If we get a call for a fence, we're not a fence company. No. With that being said, if you call us and say, hey, we want a deck, and by the way, we want some hardscape. We want a little paver walkway. Oh, and we also want a fence. Oh, and we also want an outdoor kitchen. Oh, and we are your all-around outdoor living
Got
company.
you.
But our leeway is always going to be a deck, right? And again, we want to stand apart from those other folks. And I say we know what we're good at and we know what we're not good at, right? So no, we're not trying to take on every job just because it's a job. Even if it's something that we're not comfortable with and we don't know, we might have a sub, right? We might put in a colleague that's the expert in it, and he's going to teach us and walk us through it, and we're going to learn, and we're going to start offering it. But other than that, we are strictly high-end decks. And then we can cake on everything else depending on what the client wants and the complexity of the project.
That's great, man. That's great. So what's 2024 have in store for you?
Man, it is bigger than I expected, man. Every year we've been out here, it's been amazing how we've been able to top. You know, and it's funny because I was just thinking about it the other day. You know, at what point are we going to flatline, right? At what point am I going to be, upset because I'm going to be like, man, last year was better than this year. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope we keep this momentum up because year after year, we've only gotten better and better. Everything in terms of team, in terms of builds, in terms of our costs and projects and budgets. So 2024 has got absolutely a lot in store, man. Our team has grown early this year. We're getting a real good, solid crew that's going to be able to put out some higher end quality projects. We are looking for more elaborate builds. We went from just decks, right, to now our standard, our baseline is going to be, bigger and better, right? So now it's not just a deck. Now it's a deck and a pergola. Well, now it's a deck, a pergola, and a kitchen. Well, now it's a deck, a pergola, kitchen, and a pool or a hot tub. So we're just wanting to add to that baseline of what we offer. And then going back to being able to partner with some of these brands and people, we are fortunate, man, that 2024 is bringing some real good connections and partners for us. And so that's where we're going to need to find a balance between Hollywood decks and making sure that that crew and that machine continues working, and being able to shift our focus onto the content and the education part of it, because some of these other brands and companies are also realizing the need for that content, for that education. And in my case, I don't know if I've shared or you've noticed, we're trilingual, right? So we speak English, Spanish, and American Sign Language. And there's a huge market for education and content in Spanish and education and content in sign language. So much so that even something so simple as instruction manuals for a lot of products that you go buy in Home Depot and your big box stores and Lowe's aren't even available in Spanish, right? Much less do you have resources in sign language. So we are now setting some of those connections with some of these brands to say, hey, let's start giving you guys some content in Spanish and in sign language. And you have users out there. There's a market out there. Let's make it happen. Man, so my wife, so I've known my wife since we were 8 years old, man. We grew up playing tag and hide and seek and all that good stuff. And when she was in high school, man, she wanted to learn sign language. So she ended up taking a class in her high school. They offered sign language, American Sign Language. She went to Fairfax High, man. Do you know where Fairfax High is on Melrose? Yeah. I went to John Marshall High School in Los Feliz area. And she was taking sign language. So when we ended up graduating, we both went to Pasadena City College. We both went to PCC for a couple of years. And being a good boyfriend, I said, you know what? I'm going to pick up sign language myself. So I had a few hours in between my business administration and my finance and my math classes. And in college, we both went in, man, to the whole deaf community. We were super involved and we were going to events and deaf expos, and we were just practicing sign language. And we said, look, when we get married, we want to go where the need is greater and just help out the deaf community, right? And just grow in the deaf culture. And so, yeah, my wife and I got very involved when we were dating in American Sign Language. Then we got married. And of course, nothing goes to plan. Once you get married, brother, all your plans get thrown out the window. We got married. Yeah, we didn't do none of that. Life just comes at you fast. We were just trying to survive and work and pay for our little house and, right, get ourselves comfortable, figure out who we were as a couple. And then she got pregnant, man. The second year we were married, she got pregnant. We had a beautiful firstborn son, amazing, amazing boy to the date. And we were teaching him baby signs, right? Because children learn sign language sooner than oral language. So a baby will learn how to sign and express himself with his hands sooner than they can verbally with their mouth. So we were teaching him baby signs. And then my mother-in-law, right, grandma was taking care of him one day. She was like, hey, he's not, he ain't replying. He's not looking. And I was like, nah, grandma, he's all right. He passed his screening test when he was a baby, when he was born. We took him to the pediatrician. Pediatrician said, boys are just slower, right? Girls speak faster, girls reply sooner, boys are just slower, give them some time. So at that point, he was about 1.5. Grandma kept insisting. We took him to a specialist over by USC, down in Exposition area, and there was a hearing specialist. And they did a test, man, and they said my son had a profound hearing loss. It was genetic. And by the time my son was 2 years old, he was deaf. completely deaf. Needless to say, as tough as it is, right, to hear that of any of your kids, we had language, man. We had communication. We switched and we just strictly went to sign language at home. You gotta go for it. Yeah, it says recording. Yeah. Yeah, man. So my firstborn is deaf. Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. He's up there. He's up there, man. Yeah. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. I tell you, man. So yeah, life's been amazing, man. Life's been amazing, brother. We got stories for days. I'm gonna write a book eventually when I retire. But yeah, so man, it's been 10, like what? Yeah, man. I was raised, I'm one out of 7 siblings. I was raised in a broken household, man. My parents were separated and they divorced when I was early. And I like to think I appreciate things a little more, right? We never had, I mean, we didn't have the worst childhood, brother. I'm not gonna say that either. But I appreciate things a little more, the little things, the big things. I notice things. And so when I celebrate, right, when I see something and I notice something, I want to share it, but I also want to be mindful of others too and encourage and share and let them celebrate, right, their achievements. So I guess that's it, man. I like to not take things for granted and pause and notice and appreciate a little bit. And so yeah, what ended up happening was this was 10 years ago now. I had a nephew here in Jacksonville, Florida. We were still in Los Angeles, and I had a 5-year-old nephew here in Florida diagnosed with leukemia, man. He was 5, he was just complaining of some knee pains, so my sister brought him down to Wolfson Children's Hospital here in Jacksonville. And after a few exams, they came back and they said, yeah, he's got cancer and it's pretty wild. He battled, man. He battled. Boy battled for a good 3 months. He fought the good fight. And so he celebrated his 6th birthday in the hospital and he passed away, man. He passed away of cancer. And my sister then obviously sat back for a little bit, but said, what do I do out of this, right? Where do I go from here after losing a 6-year-old kid to cancer? And we chatted about it, man. And she said, yeah, man, appreciate you. She said, I want to get back. We got so much love, man. So much support for the community here. They were there. They were raising funds. They were helping my sister with the bills and expenses and costs and looking after her. And my sister also had another 2 kids with her. And so my sister said, we're going to get back because cancer is not rare by any means. We hate the phrase and that the doctors are still saying, well, cancer is rare. Cancer has nothing rare about it. It happens too often. There are tons and tons of kids currently sitting in hospital beds, going through leukemia and cancer and taking this poison in. And that's the only treatment and hope they have. So we discussed with my sister. I had done nonprofit before in Los Angeles with other organizations. And she said, I want to give back. She said, I just want to be able to help other families that are going through what I went through. And that's how she coped with it, man. That's how my sister dealt with it. That's what helped her not focus so much on herself and kind of, enclose herself, but kind of helped her and gave her a purpose to keep going. So we built a nonprofit, man. It's been 10 years now. And it is a nonprofit that helps raise funds and awareness for children battling childhood cancer along with their families. A lot of these parents, when they get impacted by childhood cancer, man, they lose everything. They lose their jobs because they got to be at the hospital. They lose their homes because they need the money to pay for the treatment. They lose everything, right? And we're talking about siblings, moms, dads, grandparents that risk it all to try and help these kids go through cancer. And so what we do at Bare Minimum is being able to put events together every year. We raise funds, and these funds go directly to those families. We don't put funds in our pockets. We don't put funds into research. We don't put funds into hospitals and other institutions. We take every single penny that we get from donations and they go right back to the hands of those kids that are in the hospitals and at homes receiving treatment. So it's now been, we started it soon after my nephew passed away. And so now proceeds from every single one of our projects of Hollywood Decks goes towards that Brian Strong nonprofit organization foundation that then also takes those funds and gives them to those kids. That's it, brother, man. And that is absolutely it, brother. Year after year, the same too. We feel the love. We feel the support out here of this community. We've gotten donations worldwide, but obviously our events, and we host events here locally. And man, we were talking about just that. our first donations that we were giving out to families was $300. Right, we're like, here's $300. That'll help you with one bill. This last year, man, we were able to donate over $15,000 to families in just the last quarter, just from the last event. So it is absolutely stunning, man, the amount of support that we get. And all we do on our end is just raise awareness, right? So every single one of our uniforms, everything we wear has the gold ribbon on it. All we want to do, man, is raise awareness and raise funds, right? Every single one of these cents will go back to one of those kids. And even, it's so simple, brother. Sometimes we go to those kids and we'll see them at the hospital, right? Or we'll see them in bed at home. And we're like, hey, buddy, what do you want? Right? Just something so simple, man. Those kids are battling cancer. We're like, what do you want? And sometimes it's literally just, I want an Xbox. Right? Or, hey, and the parents can't. Right? The parents have bills to pay, man. The parents have, they got a mortgage. Yeah, the parents, have been off of work and, they're risking getting laid off. Hey, what do you want? I want some Vans. I want some shoes. All right. Little things, man. The little things in life that make a big impact. No, but we're trying to live, man. We are just trying our best to pass on some of the blessings we get. Yeah, man. So we are on Instagram and Facebook at Hollywood Decks. Our website is www.hollywooddecks.com. We try to share not only our work, but our mission and our goals. So if there's ever any question, man, we're always glad to help. We are just a call away, whether it be a client, a fellow builder, or just someone who needs a little minute to talk. Our team is always trying to be available. Pleasure, my man. Yeah, Steve, we're going to definitely stay in touch, brother. And if there's anything we can do, we'd be glad to come back here and catch up with you again. Thanks, Steve. Yes, sir.